Right, now let's hear what the opposition says. DA Joburg caucus leader Belinda Kayser-Echeozonjoku joins us now for reaction to this story. Belinda, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this evening. The city of Johannesburg clearly unhappy after the authorities came knocking at the private residence of the municipal manager, saying it's mischievous, it is embarrassing, it's meant to harass and intimidate the city manager.
Good evening, Thabo, and good evening to the viewers. It's very interesting that the city of Johannesburg is talking about embarrassment for a warrant of arrest to be executed, and then abuse state resources to intimidate the sheriff of the court. If this was any other resident who had the same situation happen, they would not have access to call the JMPD tactical unit. While residents are waiting for bylaw enforcement and call the JMPD at the call center, where they wait sometimes up to 2 hours. And yet within a few minutes, the city manager could stop this by intimidating the courts from executing a court order. It's quite embarrassing for the city, not only for them, that the fact that they are using state resources, and it's an insult to the residents of Johannesburg.
Why was the services of this particular client disconnected in what the courts are saying is it's unlawful?
Thabo, it's unfortunate that obviously we don't have access to the details of why this was disconnected and what the details of this warrant is. What I can tell you is that across the city of Johannesburg has every right to disconnect, but they must do it within the confines of the law. There are lots of residents, elderly residents, who have pleaded with the city to try and make arrangements to give them notices before they disconnect. And what is worse is that today what they've done worse to the residents of Johannesburg. In some cases, there have been residents that have paid. There are instances where residents' addresses were wrong, that were wrongly disconnected. And the city has intimidated the same JMPD that they've used today. They've used the very same JMPD officers to also intimidate residents when they're cutting off, even with proof in some instances that there were arrangements made, or asking them to why they did not receive notices of the cut-off as is required by law. And today they want to cry foul about the city manager being, using the ratepayers' money to intimidate the sheriff and stop the execution order. You must ask yourself, Thabo, if this was you, would you have had access to that kind of resources? And it's really, really for us as the Democratic Alliance.
Of course, I would not have access to that kind of resource. But of concern would be if it was you, though, Belinda, the attempt to execute the warrant at a private residence of a city manager. Does that in any way, in your view, undermine the rights that of the city manager, his family, and so on and so forth? If it was you and you held that position of city manager, how would you have felt about the warrant being executed in your private residence like that?
Irrespective of what I feel or whether I am embarrassed, the law is the law. It is very simple. The rule of law must be applied. Depending on what the execution, the court order said, if the court order had said wherever he is in the boundaries of the city or in the country, wherever he is, if the court order said that, then the rule of law must be applied. The same you could ask, what did the court order say that stopped him from implementing what the previous court order said that took it back to court for contempt? When he did the contempt, was that an embarrassment not of the city? It's an embarrassment to the city that the city manager, who's the accounting officer, cannot exercise his duty to follow what the court said. If they do not collapse the city as it is now, if they do things properly, exercise good governance, residents will not have to use the courts to be able to do what needs to get done properly. So as I'm saying to you, if it was me, if it's embarrassment, if I have violated the law, then the law must take its course. It doesn't matter. You cannot have public officials, politicians, and senior government officials that feel they are more important than the people who are paying their salaries. It cannot be correct. We're going a very dangerous path, and this is the same thing that the DA has consistently said, that it is impossible for the city to want one rule for residents to comply with, and then a different set of rules apply to them. The same thing, the same way they've abused state resources to have a policy that violates the upper limits in the form of the VIP protection. That is exactly what they've done today, to also violate the rights of residents by abusing state resources to stop the arrest of the city manager.
So the first person of the city believes that we are going towards dangerous territory in a sense. He believes that this is certain political actors utilizing the courts to compromise and prevent Floyd Brink from exercising his duties.
It's unfortunate that the executive mayor should become a ward councillor and see what residents and ward councillors go through every single day when they do not have power for 7 days, when they don't have water for 7 days, when they've paid their bills, and the mayor comes with 4 or 5 cars and lots of VIP protectors, and City Power or Joburg Water come and cut off residents who plead with them to tell them that you have not given me notice for me to be able to at least go and borrow money to be able to make arrangements. It is unfortunate that we have a first citizen who cannot, who is so out of touch with the residents of Johannesburg. It is very easy to use money that you are not directly paying for. The residents paid his salary. Each one of us is public office bearers, the residents. It's the rates and taxes that is at stake here. If he had to pay for all of this himself, he would sing a completely different tune. So we reject it with the contempt it deserves. 13
unmarked vehicles, you say, were used to prevent the court order being executed. What is council going to do about it?
Well, we will be asking the questions already. Councillor, one of our Section 79 members, Councillor Michael Son, will be tabling some questions, not only the committee, as to what exactly happened here. Because you can ask yourself, firstly, we've already rejected the VIP protection policy with regards to the abuse of state resource and the violation of the upper limits. If somebody is exercising a court order or trying to execute a court order, I do not understand how the city manager's life was at stake for 13, well, it's alleged that it's 13 vehicles that belongs to the city that could have been used for that. Who put his life at risk? And nothing wrong. He could have just called his legal team if that was the reason why he was delaying everything. Why come with AK-47s? Because the technical units have AK-47s, and in fact, they were intimidating the court. So it was the police against the police and the police against the courts today. So we will definitely be asking questions. It's already started. We've already started interrogating. So you will be seeing the responses. But also one of the concerns we have had in the city is that the speaker has obviously requested for questions to be deferred to the June council meeting. So we only have some of those answers in the next council sitting, which is the ordinary one in June.
Belinda Kayser-Echeozonjoku, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on this evening. DA caucus leader in the city of Johannesburg.